Thank you. Yep, perfect. Okay. So let's go with the kids first. Professor Tobin, who's gonna introduce the program tonight? Thank you.
I'm delighted and honored to introduce the program, and very appreciative of the town's support for the program. The program I'm sorry.
Can we talk loud?
Sure. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
Bishop, help him with the mic, will you please?
No, my wife says I'm slow but not stupid. I think I've got it now. The program brings together students from all three of the town high schools to solve problems, real-world problems, and to do it in a systematic, research-based way. And the program is really a town effort. All three of the principals of the high schools, two of them are here. Dr. Mitchell Combs, I think, is here from Port Chester.
You guys come up. I'm going to bring you on TV, Miss Dr. Combs. I'm sorry.
And Gina Healy from Blindbrook.
Gina, come on up. Do you mind? Thank you.
I know that Barbara Ferraro would have liked to have been here. The program simply would not be possible without their support and wisdom and agreeing to serve on our steering committee. In addition to the principals, the superintendents have been involved in the program. In addition to the superintendents, we have community organizations that have been involved in founding the program. And what I want to convey is the broad support and diligence of constituents in the town. There's a couple other people I want to single out. Debbie Reisner, who leads the League of Women Voters, has served as our community liaison this year. Again,
Debbie, would you stand up, please?
Bringing wisdom and thoughtfulness. And Dr. Valerie Fite is also here from Rye High School, who's co-taught the class with me. And then I want to mention and identify some of the parents that are here tonight. I've spoken to quite a few of them, and it's just been an honor to work with your children. Do you mind standing up as well? Don't be shy. I know who you are now. And I always thank your sons and daughters for allowing you to come, because I know that's part of the story. And then I wanted to recognize the students in the group, and we have a really great, vibrant, and large group this year, and it's a credit to the students. And would you mind standing up as well? This is a program that tries to arm students with the dispositions and the skills to solve real-world problems. And because the research suggests that the best solutions, the most creative, the most innovative, and most practical come from inclusive and diverse groups, we needed to bring together the students from all three of the high schools. And again, that's the way I think of this program. This is a program not simply to get the students in the town to interact with each other. We want to get world-class research that should follow from that kind of grouping. And I really want to emphasize that tonight. And the thing I want to say before I hand it off to the students is the students took the lead in virtually every aspect of this program. They decided on the topic. They framed the research question. They decided on the methods. They decided on how to teach material. I would send a lesson plan to Dr. Fite and say, I think this is the way I do it at Duke. She would have some students look and say, no, that's not the way this should be taught. And again, the knowledge and the mastery, not just of the substantive, but the way the material should be taught, that speaks volumes about the students, that they could help present the material. In addition, we had peer-led research teams where older students who had been through the program before led younger students in producing methodology sections and producing literature reviews. Dr. Fite and I did over guidance, but this was hands-on work by the students. And if you've read the email correspondence between the students, the respectfulness, the care, the thoughtfulness, it was just stunning to watch that. And finally, as we're here tonight, the students developed policy recommendations and solutions, and also policy recommendations that could be followed through after tonight. And so without further ado, I want to present the students who are going to talk to you about our report, which will be the paper copy, which will be widely disseminated and circulated in the week after I check all the I's and the T's. We'll be sending that out to not only the town officials, but our steering committee, as well as other members of the community. And I want to introduce Luke Murphy, who's going to begin the presentation. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for the support of the program.
Luke, just before you start, I did want to introduce a couple of other notables. I'm pleased to have Jim Dries from the Portchester School Board here with us tonight. Did you get him on TV, Tom? Get him on TV. I'm pleased to have Jeff Diamond from the Blind Brook School Board here tonight. I'm pleased to have village trustees from Portchester, Joe Kenner and Luis Moreno, here tonight. Step up, gentlemen. I don't think I'll embarrass anybody saying those are the two handsomest trustees we have. Am I missing anybody? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming and participating in tonight's event. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Luke.
Thank you. Can you hear me on the... Is that... It's on? We're all good?
Tom, can you get the presentation as well? You good? You got both? Beautiful. Do we need to turn lights, or are you good?
Okay, you got it. So I'm going to talk to you about the research question that we did, and what we wanted to examine in our study is the relationship between civic participation and social media. What we had seen in many cases is that social media was increasingly being used in activist roles and in roles to become involved in the community. We saw it involved in the Egyptian Revolution. They used Facebook and Twitter and all sorts of social networking sites to organize their revolution. And so we wanted to see how could we apply that to Rye Town to increase the engagement of residents in the town and enhance their experience of living here. So what we wanted to know in order to answer our research question, we had to know a few things. We needed to know how people were already engaged in the community in Rye Town. How did their demographic, their background, how did all of this affect their engagement and their use of social media? And then what did they perceive the relationship to be between social media usage and civic engagement? How did they see it as an opportunity, a vehicle to become involved in their community?
Hi, my name is Grace Sundstrom, and through our research in the literature review and our own personal research, we were able to see that the demographic of Rye Town was a very important aspect in looking at civic engagement and social engagement in this process. As we saw that median income, education, and employment in Rye Town are all above the national level, and this is important because income affects access to internet and social media, and it also the education affects civic engagement. Furthermore, we saw that in Rye Town we have a number of people who don't necessarily speak English, and 72% speak a language at home, 45% speak a language at home other than English, and 72% speak Spanish at home. And of that percent, half of them speak broken English. So we found that it was important that in order to make civic engagement more popular, it needs to branch out to different types of people, and it needs to be more understandable and more reachable. We also interviewed Dave Thomas, I'm sorry. It's very nerve-wracking being up here. We also interviewed Dave Thomas, who is the content manager of the Town of Rye, and he also created the Facebook page for the Town of Rye. And we noted that this was a great first step in the Town of Rye's attempts to become civically engaged, but we also think that the Facebook page could use a little work, as it is very hard. It's a long process to get posts and comments on the website, and it also, we understand that there has to be a non-biased approach to comments and posts, but we thought that this lack of opinion takes away from the town and citizen relationship, and we thought that if people were able to put their own opinions on the website, there would be more of a want and a need to go on the website and share their own opinions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lara Cohen, and I'm from Blindbrook High School. So when looking at the research revolving around this study, it's very important to look at research not only pertaining to Rye Town, but also on a global scale. So the set definition of social media is interactive internet websites along with other forms of online communication. However, the definition of civic engagement varies depending on different factors such as nationality, race, age, gender, and income. And this is why it was important in our survey for us to ask specific questions so that we could see people's different interpretations of what civic engagement was. The use of the internet has obviously been increasing over time for specific purposes in social media, such as being a source of political information and online participation. This can be seen by the fact that people now contact their officials as much online as they do by phone or mail. The internet is also being used as virtual community builder for maintaining relationships such as social networking on sites like Facebook, to promote grassroots activism, which is when a group of small local people bring a specific issue to their government, and in general to promote global networking. So the first thing that internet is beginning to be used for is virtual communities, which are real-world interest groups that take place online. So for example, real-world activism can lead to online activism, but at the same time an online group can then form a real-life group. At the same time, internet is being used for social networking websites. Although their primary use is for maintaining friendships, sites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter have the potential to increase civic and, most importantly, political engagement. However, at the same time, these sites may cause distrust because, unlike the town Facebook page, there is a bias and you can provide an opinion. Lastly, social media is related to social capital on the internet, and social capital is the series of networks necessary to create democratic institutions. This is vital to creating civic engagement and even more so political engagement. So by using the internet and other sources of social media to increase social capital, we can hopefully increase participation.
Hi, I'm Taylor Salvatore, and I go to Blindbrook High School. So for our research question, we decided that the best way to go about finding out our answer or finding out our study is to have a mixed methodology type of getting our research. So what we did was we conducted surveys throughout Rye Town to get quantitative information, which is to get like a general idea of how many people, like more number-based and more of a general idea of what's going on in Rye Town and and what people think of social media and civic engagement and how it goes together. And then for qualitative information, we conducted 2 focus groups where each of us brought another person so that they could give us an in-depth response. And we talked to the content manager for Rye Town, who's also in charge of the Facebook page, to get a better idea of what's actually going on and what's going on with the Facebook page and how it's used. So our surveys, we used our surveys to gain for demographic data. So what they told us was how people use social media, what they were doing with it, were they using it for civic engagement. It pretty much gave us numbers of what was going on in the town and what people thought of it.
Hi, my name is Rachel Weltman, and I'm from Blindbrook High School. Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so we also did focus groups, which we did to get direct feedback and a more personal response from people. It really used civic engagement in real life and trying to understand their personal stories. We had an interview with Dave Thomas, who's the content manager of Rye Town. We talked to him about Rye Town's goals for social media, the usage, and advertisement, so kind of how we can take social media, which is being advertised, and use civic engagement and add that to the advertisements. The effectiveness of current social media, so how social media is being used today, which is huge today. Governmental use of social media, so how we can get civically engaged and eventually politically engaged, and the constraints and considerations, which there are a lot. It takes a ton of time, but in the end, it's totally worthwhile.
Hi, I'm Brian Kerr, and I'm now going to be talking about the findings for the survey and focus group individually. For the survey, people rarely use social media for civic engagement. An overwhelming majority say they use social media and are civically engaged, but they never use social media for civic engagement. Literature also suggests that education and age affect how much one uses social media. Age also matters when defining social media. Younger people defined it more as sharing information, while older people defined it more as voting and volunteering. And a great number of people who were civically engaged were involved in some activity that had nothing to do with social media. For the focus group findings, participants said that social media was a potential tool for civic engagement, meaning that it was the vehicle for civic engagement, for people to become civically engaged with motivation and passion. Social media is good at facilitating some activities related to civic engagements, such as sharing information and connecting citizens, but not all of them. For people to become civically engaged, there needs to be self-interest and the willingness to act on this interest. They also need to know how an issue impacts them directly, and social media helps in doing that. Without this self-interest, passion, and motivation, there is a very weak relationship between social media and civic engagement.
Hi, my name is Annabelle Gutterbin and I go to Rye High School. So with the survey and focus group findings, we found overarching findings, the biggest being that the use of social media to increase civic engagement is correlated with self-interest. So basically, social media hasn't replaced self-interest or the ways most people motivate themselves to be civically engaged, but it can be used to guide in the direction of civic engagement. We realize that people are a lot less inclined if they don't have the passion to be civically engaged. Also, we found that age is a factor because older generations may be less likely to use social media to be civically engaged, and younger generations use social media more.
Hi, my name is Amanda Hurlbut, and I'm a senior at Rye High School. So to follow up on what has been said about the findings and the methodology, we have come up with a few policy recommendations for the town of Rye. The goal of these recommendations is to really capitalize on the people who already use social media and just increase their usage in a way that helps them stay engaged with the town.
My name is Sage Reisner, and I'm a senior also at Rye High School. Our first recommendation would be a student-led consultancy, which would add a more personal guidance to local organizations to help them to use social media to increase civic engagement. A great number of students in our program have already expressed interest in helping in this student-run consultancy.
So in addition to this consultancy, which facilitates the more personal side of engagement with the town, we have a few more online forms, starting with a webinar or online workshop, which would be an instructional film to help community organizations take advantage of social media and sort of learn how to really involve themselves within the town. And this video may be produced by a student group, which has, similarly to the interest in the consultancy group, there's interest in from tools for making a video as well.
There was also a recommendation to promote youth involvement. According to our survey, many in this age group of 14 to 19-year-olds do not consider themselves civically engaged, so we felt that would be an important group to focus on. Possibly a webinar that would have a kind of a common ground for people, this age group that is so connected with social media, and bring in civic engagement and some interests in that online sense.
From our surveys, we found out that 90% of the people that we surveyed use email as their primary source of online engagement. So we thought that maybe the town could provide an email newsletter that would encourage the use of social media, and in the email it would highlight how social media can encourage or support civic engagement. It would also include links to all town social media websites, and it would also notify citizens of town events and upcoming things that they may want to get involved in. So now we would like to invite the board and the audience members to ask any questions that they may have.
Well, first of all, let's go around the line. Well, please.
I'd just like to tell
Supervisor Solomon.
Volunteer. Volunteering is a very important thing. We have a lot of organizations in the community that could stand for volunteers. And especially all of them that are on, all the churches need volunteers. All the Carver Center needs volunteers. Also, right here, there's loads of them. I can't think of everybody. But there's volunteer organizations all over the place that need you. And also, I had to learn Spanish when I did the census, and I volunteered for the census at that time. In 1990, I saw the migration coming in. And I said, oh my God, I'm a World War II vet. We only had French and Latin. I said, I've got to know Spanish. Because as a school nurse and an American Red Cross nurse, 49 and a half years this year on the disaster team, it's volunteering, and a historian for the area and everything. And I was a school nurse 17 and a half years in all of the schools in Dorchester. And 10 years of camp nursing and everything. I mean, it goes on and on. Volunteering. You have to understand that we need volunteers all over the place. And you people have to volunteer.
Okay, Goldie. Okay, Goldie, just bring it to
one class in Spanish so I could speak to the parents in case their children were sick. And that's what I did in order to take care of the migration. We're all Americans. You have to remember. The map. North America, Central America, South America. We are the United States of America. Everybody from around the world in the United States is American.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And if you want things for people to know, a lot of people do not have emails or on the internet. Do a flyer. Put it in the churches. Put it in different places all over. Take a look at the downtown area. It's made up of all...
okay, Goldie, we have
a diverse community. All races, religions, and ethnicities in the town of Rye and in the village of Portchester. Thank you.
Okay. Well, actually, I think Goldie hit on all the themes. In terms of student participation, again, I can't thank everybody enough for participating. And actually, one interesting suggestion was flyers. Maybe as part of the social media, we also reach out to our more senior communities, probably not as conversant in social media, and get flyers and stuff. But let me turn over to the board. I know the board has some questions.
I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the survey experience, and whether that be a little bit about what kind of questions you asked, or how you got the answers, or what kind of reception you got. Just a little bit about that experience.
We had paper surveys, so we had formulated a list of questions that had multiple choice answers, and the entire tools group had divided up and we went to different areas within the Town of Rye, Portchester, Rye Neck area, Blindbrook area, and stood outside in the snowy cold asking people for 5 minutes to answer our survey, and we ended up being pretty productive with those couple of Saturday mornings.
So people, you would just ask, you weren't going door to door, you were going
No,
to
we were in the public
areas.
places. We were at
Great.
Costco, we were at the Kohl Shopping Center, and we just said, would you take 3 minutes to please fill out our survey? We're students. And there was definitely, you sort of get the feeling for who's going to answer your questions and who isn't. The pregnant mom with 7 children and 5 bags of groceries, you're not going to ask her, but it was fun.
That's great.
But they had to live in Rye Town.
That was fun too.
Sure. Did people know what Rye Town was when you went up and said?
Actually, they
Did you do a lot
didn't,
of
so we had to do
explaining?
some clarifying.
Okay.
I feel like I often said, do you live in Portchester, Rye Neck, or Rye Brook? And they obviously identified with those 3 places.
Actually, I can share my experience. I chaperoned one group one Saturday morning, and it was freezing cold, and it was. Now, of course, I almost got arrested because I thought we were going to go back to the '60s because they wanted us to. I thought it was a public space, and they were telling us no, so we had a little difference of opinion. So, so I thought the students we could right back to the '60s, right? But it was great to get out there and meet with the public and get the surveys.
That's great. Thank you.
Other questions?
The one thing that I took away that really stood out for me is the opportunity to use a webinar or online workshop as a tool for education for the community. I think that should be something that possibly the students, if this is going to be a legacy that you're leaving behind, that other people can work with. You'll see every month in our meetings, Mitch will talk about, how to grieve, your assessment. Honorable Mr. Mecca will talk about your tax bill that's coming up. We talk about initiatives. So if we take that opportunity to create a webinar, and some webinars are really just, it could be interactive. You take a half an hour with the town supervisor to ask some questions. For the people that are homebound, or maybe there's someone who's serving overseas and wants to connect locally. Maybe a great opportunity. The other thing that I'm seeing with that is there's a lot of people within that may not have good knowledge of the town of Rye and what they offer. So to have webinars in that sense to better understand. What do I have to do to rent over Crawford Park or Rye Town Park? What's going on at the beach? I think that's a great idea. Now, the one thing that I don't know if you addressed it, but I think that I'd like to have you address it if you have this opportunity in the future. Social media brings on a whole slew of concerns. One of them is anonymity. Okay. And obviously one of the reasons why Mr. Thomas controls the media content on Facebook and other avenues is to make sure that, number one, the comments are not hurtful to anyone, because we don't want to create a blog where people can sound off, because I'm sure you've experienced already that blogs tend to take on a very negative tone, and that's not something that we want to do. But one thing with civic engagement in social media is that going to a meeting after meeting like Mrs. Solomon does, and a lot of people do, there's something tangible and they have some skin in the game. When you step up to that microphone at that podium at a village board meeting, and Mr. Kenner and Marino and Mr. Dreves will tell you, you have to, whether you agree with what they're saying or not, you have to respect them, because they're putting their family's reputation, they're putting their name, their face on the camera, and they're voicing their opinion. So although social media is good, there's nothing that I think takes the place of that personal civic engagement. So I think social media is great, and I support it, but it could be ancillary, but it doesn't replace people like Goldie Solomon coming to this meeting. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilman Neris?
A couple of questions. Being a consultant, I'll ask some consulting questions. What was a number one or couple of things that you learned from this experience?
Well, I think one of the most important things doesn't always necessarily pertain to the project itself, but this was my second year in the program, and learning to interact with others in the community, you build certain social skills that you really can't find anywhere else. And this specific topic was related to civic engagement, and that's truly what we're doing in the program. And by being able to meet other people from other towns and relate and think about these difficult questions, it really provides a unique experience.
Great, great.
Another skill that I definitely think that most of us have come away with is, breaking down a question and directing it at what we want to find out. Because there's a lot of questions that can kind of veer you in the wrong direction. So finding the right question and then taking it apart and finding other articles and past research that would get you to that. It takes a lot of focusing in on what we're studying, and that's a skill that we can use forever.
Great, great. Anything to add?
Yeah, it's just for me, it was the process of researching something with the question and sort of, like Sage said, breaking down the question and figuring out what the next steps need to be to really get to the bottom of whatever it is. And these things are really interesting because you go into it with a question thinking, okay, I'm going to get a concrete answer out of it. And then when you're dealing with data and focus groups and people and human subjects, it just becomes much more complicated, and I think that's something that we all learned needs a lot of time and effort and consideration into all of the factors that may affect what you're looking at.
Okay, and then the second question would be, what would you change in the program? What's one thing you would change if you could?
Tough one.
I would say the cold weather.
Cold weather.
I think that because Dr. Tobin lives in North Carolina, and because we all are high school students and not college students, we all have a bunch of things going on. Right. The amount of classes that we actually have becomes so important because we have focus time. And I mean, of course, it would be great if we had more of those classes. That would definitely be more helpful. But we really had a great experience.
Okay, great. And then the last question is, now there were a couple of findings that you presented here in terms of what we can do with the social media, our website, etc. Do you have any sort of roadmap or any sort of plans or projects that you think we should start off with in terms of developing our social media here at the Town of Rye?
Well, something really important that we discussed today was the initial step of bringing what we've discovered about social media and civic engagement back to the schools, because I know a lot of the schools are involved with different clubs and organizations that don't only branch out to the students, but also the community and fundraisers and adults. And by bringing it back there initially, we'll be able to spread the word and inform the community of what's going on, and therefore promote the different things like the web seminars and consulting program that we aim to do in the future.
Great. Okay. Super. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, no, sorry. Well, again, I can't thank everybody enough. I guess in terms of well, I can't think of a better project, quite frankly. I think we've seen a real demonstration of college-level analytics. I mean, the quality of the analysis that I saw tonight was absolutely fantastic, off the charts. As good as I've seen post-university. These are graduate level, in my view, analytics. So you should congratulate yourself on the quality of the analysis that you did. It's as good as any presentation I think we've seen here come across the board. So kudos to you on that. The second thing, I'm glad to hear about the inter-community diversity, and that's one of the founding goals of the project, is to get people to reach across communities and see that. And then finally, your community participation, getting students out involved in the community. So I think that's all fantastic. Now, what I really want, having participated a little bit in the project, and that's certainly not enough as much as I wanted to, I really want to keep this going. And I really want to follow up with you on your recommendations, all of which I think are spectacular. I mean, I love the student-led consulting to community organizations. One of the things we're trying to do, Dave Thomas and Gregor Cardin with the Model American Community Project, is help emerging 501c3s, get their message out. And so I love the idea of having a student-led consultancy and maybe it turns into a big business for you, and you keep the profits. But ultimately, that I like that idea. And as Deputy Supervisor Villanova said, the webinar, youth involvement, email, newsletter. Town Attorney Noto, how is it that we haven't had one email newsletter? That's an inside joke, but Town Attorney Noto has been asking us for years to send out more newsletters. So, all excellent suggestions. Now, what I'd like to do is follow up with you. I don't know, maybe Professor Tobin, Dr. Fry, or Ms. Reisner. I'd love to follow up with if we can find just those students that want to stay involved. I want to help you develop the consultancy, help you stay involved, and if there's somebody from the town, maybe Dave, what are you? Your content manager? I didn't know he was a content manager. Did you know he was a content manager? The content manager, would you?
I thought he was a content manager. I'm just here for comedy community.
But I want to make absolutely certain we follow up. And I want to invite all those students that are interested to stay involved and participate. And would you make absolutely certain we have a meeting within the next month where we chart out a course to enact and execute on the recommendations you put forward? I think it's fundamentally important in this, our third year, that we look to execute on the recommendations. They're excellent recommendations. I want to execute on those. So please, Professor Tobin. Fantastic.
We've got students who are ready, but we go, and we're committed to that.
Why don't you come on up anyway?
Add a generational chorus to that.
Yeah.
I think we're really committed to that as well. And today we were talking to students, and we've got students who are eager to figure out and work with you to try to, and work with the town to try to meet some of the needs of the communities. What we found, and one of the key findings was there's lots of civic engagement in the town, but social media isn't accompanying that. And is there a way to help the community organizations solve problems or challenges with social media as a tool, not to replace that? And I think the students bring a wealth of real-world wisdom, and we're hoping to tap that. So we're really excited about that opportunity to work.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much. Just before we close, I want to thank the principals from Portchester High School, Principal Combs, Principal Healy, for Blind Brook High School principal, for all your support for the program. I know Principal Ferraro couldn't make it tonight. I want to thank Dr. Fry for all your support in the program. I want to thank Debbie Reisner for working hard. I know from our side it worked smoothly this year and flawlessly, so that was great. We want to thank the League of Women Voters. This is a tripartite project. We had the League of Women Voters involved, building community bridges in the town of Rye, and so that was fantastic. And thank you, Debbie, for all that. I want to thank the school board members for coming here tonight. One of our goals also here is to, we sort of have the municipalities over here and the schools over here, and almost if they don't share a community. And one of our goals in trying to achieve a model American community is to get the municipalities more involved with the schools and the social outreach organization. So I want to thank you both for coming this evening. And finally, none of this would have been possible without Professor Tobin. 3 years ago, you can see the quality of the analysis. I always wanted to go to Duke University, and I applied and got rejected, unfortunately. I was hoping to get in my basketball skills, but I think they rejected me twice. But to have a Duke University professor come to our community to make the sacrifices, the personal sacrifices he does to make this program a success is absolutely wonderful. And I can't thank you enough, Professor Tobin, for all you've done this program.
Thank all the kids for coming.
Well, I have to finish school. And most importantly, we want to thank all of you students for participating. You know, my goal, this is the third year we've had it, and I say this every year, and I'm hopeful 30 years from now, when we're on the 30th iteration of the Tools for Change project, and when it's a nationwide program, you'll come here 30 years from tonight and you'll say, wow, look what they're doing in 2000, whatever that would be, 2042. Look what the project they're doing in 2042. And I'd love to have the alumni for every year say, oh, we did the social media back in 2012. And I really believe that can happen. But I want to commit to everyone here tonight is that, you know, certainly, at least from my perspective, hopefully the rest of the board, hopefully Building Committee Bridges, and hopefully the League of Women Voters. But I guarantee I will do absolutely everything to make this program viable again next year with the continued support of the schools and the school boards. But I want to have the same program go not just next year, but for the next 30 years and leave a legacy of change and positive. But none of it would be possible without your students. So thank you for your participation. Thank you everybody for coming tonight.
One more thing.
Please.
Louis Marino, thanks for coming out on that day and helping our students with their survey.
Thank you.
And one more thanks, Dick Huber. If it wasn't for him, none of this would be possible.
That's exactly right. It's all your fault, Mr. Huber.
Again.
So I think we can let everybody, anyone who wants to stay, can stay for the more mundane matters. We're going to talk about the bridge repairs and those kinds of things, but I want to thank everybody for coming.
Keep in mind, only the people that are not civically minded will be leading now.
Did you rehearse this before you did?